My name is Lance Randall, and I'm running for mayor of Seattle because we are going through some challenges that we need to overcome, and we have to set a new course forward as we come out of the pandemic. We're in the battle for the soul of Seattle. We have the establishment organizations, the establishment groups who are trying to maintain the status quo, and they've picked their candidate. And then we have those on the left who have provided leadership over the last several years that have taken us down a path that has caused chaos and destruction. Now it's time to have leadership in City Hall that's balanced and can work with all sides of the equation. What you have is a situation where we have to improve, we have to move forward in a more unified manner, and it takes vision, it takes leadership that knows how to build people, bring people together, and build working coalitions, and I'm ready to be that leader. To tell a little bit more about myself, for 30 years I've worked as a political scientist, economic development practitioner, and an entrepreneur, and I'm also a musician. I've held leadership positions with a U.S. congressman, state senator, mayors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, public-private partnerships, and education institutions. My background and experience make me uniquely qualified and prepared to be Seattle's next mayor at this exact moment in our city's history. So as the country and the world come out of the pandemic, we will search for a city modeling effectiveness, sustainability, equity, and accountability to its citizens. Seattle can be that model city, and I want to leverage our creativity, ingenuity, so that we can be that city where everyone can live freely, create, and be prosperous. I have pulled together a platform explaining my plan, and it addresses some specific topics such as dignity for the homeless, economic rebound for all of our businesses, large and small, revitalizing our music scene, rebuilding our infrastructure, public safety, and climate. The platform invests in our people and our culture and our future. So I trust that after you hear me speak to you, that you will be inspired by my platform. You'll be optimistic about my ability to lead the city, and you will be encouraged and will consider me as the next mayor of Seattle and vote for me for the change that we need, transformational leader for a transforming city.
Well, thank you, Lance. We are so thankful to have you with us here today. First question we've been asking all the candidates is, what do you plan to do in your first 100 days as mayor? What are the immediate actions that you'll use your executive authority on? And what will be your first priorities when working with the city council?
Well, the first priority is to establish that with a working relationship with the city council. Within the first 30, 60 days, I'll be scheduling meetings, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, coffee, with every council member to establish a personal relationship so that we can create an opportunity to have a better working relationship. So I think it's important to work with the council members and meet them up close and personal. I've worked with some of them already and know some of them. And I would like to say that I think I can create a good opportunity for us to have a great relationship. So that'll be the first thing to do, is to get a relationship with the city council. The next thing is to meet with all of our department heads to see where we are. We have a lot of department head positions that need to be filled. So what I would like to do is meet with all the department heads, the permanent ones and the interims, and we'll sit down and have a discussion about how we move the city forward and how we're going to manage our departments. And then my team will then come together to take a look at the positions that need to be filled and take the necessary steps, whether it's through internal promotions or doing a national search for these positions. So we need to try to make sure we create a path forward as we do that. And the third thing to do is to begin to address the public safety situation. We have a situation where there's a lot of chaos around the city. There's a lot of crime that's being committed, and it's time for us now to end the experiment. Defunding the police did not work. So now we have to set that aside and begin to build relationships with our police department and our communities. So my main objective is to begin immediately to start having town halls around the city with our police department and the communities so that we can begin to rebuild these relationships and create partnerships where we can work together, because we are short on officers and I'm going to have to take some time to try to rebuild the police force. And because of that, it's going to be very important for the citizens and the residents, the businesses, to partner with our police department and our officers to make sure that we are working together to prevent crime and to solve crime throughout the city, to keep everyone protected as we continue to try to rebuild our public safety service delivery system. Then, of course, it's a matter of sitting down with the last thing I would say I want to do is sit down with with other leaders around the city and different stakeholders in different neighborhoods to make sure that I understand exactly the things that they need, and I can begin to put together a strategy and a plan of action of how we're going to serve the entire city and meet all the needs, starting with downtown, the neighborhood business districts, certain organizations who need more support. Of course, our mental health organizations need more support and what have you. Also, would like to work with the regional homeless authority. We have to figure out how we're going to make that work. So diving right into that, getting to know the new leader, and making sure that we are positioning ourselves as a great partner. So there's a lot of different things that we need to do, but I think those things I can get done in the first 100 days to build those partnerships and to make sure that we rebuild our police department and make sure we put the right people in place to lead our city departments.
Well, that's great. There's a lot of big stuff in there that I'd love to follow up a little bit on. First, you mentioned the importance of the executive departments. You yourself have a lot of experience with Seattle's Office of Economic Development. You know its opportunities. You know its limitations. How would you work to support OED and the work that it does to support Seattle's small businesses, and particularly those from more marginalized communities?
Well, it's a great question. I worked with OED for 8 years. And the one thing I've always noticed was OED has never been adequately funded, adequately staffed. This is a large city, and we're averaging about maybe 30 people in the office. We need to at least double that number of people to make sure that we have enough experts that can cover the city and work in every business neighborhood and be responsive to the businesses. So the objective is to put more financial resources into that department, number one. The second thing is to put together a training plan for all of the staff in OED. I want to make sure they have the expertise in order to do recruiting, retention, expansion work, and workforce development. So I want to make sure that all of the staff will go and take the courses with the International Economic Development um, um, Corporation to make sure that they have the training so they go on this path. And the objective is to make sure we have all of them as possible to be certified economic developers. The next thing to do is to put more resources into the Only in Seattle program, where neighborhood business district organizations have the funding and resources they need to do their work. And the way I want to do that is triple the amount of money that goes into that program so that we can make sure that any request that comes in from the business districts, the smaller chambers, for funding to help them do their job, that it's not a matter of taking a look at what we have and then giving the organizations what we think that they need, or not having enough funding to fund their request. My objective is to have enough money in place to whatever the neighborhood business associations ask for, we should be able to meet that request so that they can have the money to do their work. The other thing is to make sure that I also make available money for capacity building. One of the challenges that a lot of our organizations have in trying to serve the businesses is most of the organizations are run by volunteers, and they have to try to run their businesses or you do their regular jobs at the same time trying to serve businesses. I want to make sure that we have enough money in place so that they can hire top-notch people, pay them decent money so they can be the ones to coordinate the activities, coordinate the meetings, and make sure that they're doing the consistent outreach to the businesses in the neighborhood business districts. That's very important. The other thing is to make sure that we put together a economic development long-term strategy with a focus on recruiting, retention, and expansion, and workforce development. I think we haven't really done that in several years. So it's time to do that now so that we can have a plan going forward as we come out of the pandemic. And then we want to work closer with our regional partners when it comes to recruiting. Seattle is important to the region, and the region is important to Seattle. So we need to work with all of our regional partners and even the state to make sure that we are doing the things that we need to do, not only to support Seattle when it comes to economic development, but also our partnering cities, other municipalities that are a part of our region. So I have some big plans for OED. That's the advantage of me having worked in that office before, knowing what they need and knowing that it has not received the support it needed to receive in the past. I'm going to make sure that we provide the resources and support and have the best trained and qualified people in that office going forward.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And then digging a little deeper even into that, you yourself are a musician, the importance of the arts and entertainment industry in Seattle. You know how critical it is for creative entrepreneurs, for performers, to have their kind of community-based spaces, and that it's been increasingly difficult for them to not just open a new business in Seattle, but then to stay within the communities within which they're already rooted. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you would like to support the creative economy in Seattle?
Well, we need to definitely re-energize our creative economy. And the best way to do that is make strategic investments, because the creative economy provides the quality of life aspect that makes Seattle so attractive to different people. What good is it to come and work in Seattle when you don't have a good quality of life with music venues, theaters, performance venues, and what have you? So my platform talks about some very specific things that I want to do to re-energize the creative sector. First thing that I want to do in response to COVID is I want to establish a rent recovery fund for live music and art performance venues so they can stay afloat. They took a big hit, and we need to make sure that we put money in place to help them recover so they can, start up again. I think they're doing that, but they still need a boost of cash, a boost of support to make sure that we can maintain them as we go forward and they reestablish themselves. The other thing that I want to do is create a citywide film partnership incentive program, working with the Seattle Convention and Business Bureau, so we can attract more out-of-state film productions that will come in and pay living wages, and then they will pour money into the communities that they film in, and then they will advertise our city around the region, and that will bring filmmaking back to Seattle. It has really gone down over the years. We have an opportunity to bring it back up, but it's going to take some strategic investments and partnerships with King County and the state to make that happen. We also want to create a workforce development program to connect our youth to career opportunities in the creative sector. And this requires us to partner a lot with the organizations that have access to our youth, and to make sure that we connect them with the business opportunities for internships and what have you in the creative sector, so we can begin to build our workforce when it comes to the creative sector. I have a lot of other different things that I want to do. I have a long list of things I want to do for the creative community, but the main thing is to make investments into the venues, create career pathways for youth, support the programs that we already have. And I believe we were trying to put together a Seattle Film Commission. And I think I want to continue to push to make that happen, and then to provide funding for it, because that's going to be key to bringing back film and music. And we want to also encourage local companies who make commercials to advertise their businesses. They will be deliberate in giving opportunities to our creative community locally to do those ads and make the music for these different advertisements. So I won't go through all of this, but it's quite a robust list that I have that I want to do to help the creative sector. So best believe, being an artist myself, I know what they need. I'm going to make all the necessary investments into the creative economy, because it's going to be key in helping us get out of this pandemic. And it's going to be very important going forward to bringing the prominence back to Seattle as a creative city.
Thank you for that. And so we've got time for one last question. You've offered a lot of kind of great granular ideas for very specific parts of Seattle, parts of the economy. But in your platform, you also talk about reclaiming Seattle's position on the world stage. And that's just a grand vision. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is going to look like under your administration?
Well, Seattle has always been one of those cities that has attracted a lot of people when it comes to sports and tourism. And of course, the pandemic caused us to lose sporting events being canceled, and tourism just went down significantly. But I can remember sometimes in the past that the occupancy rate averaged at 90 to 95% on a regular basis with our hotels downtown, and tourism was way up. So the pandemic has had a profound impact on us, but we're coming out of it. And as we do so, we need to take an opportunity to make sure that we capitalize on this ability to invest more into promotion of sports and tourism. I want to specifically talk about tourism and what I proposed to do, which was an idea that I worked with the GSBA when when I'm a member now. I was a member. I had one membership with my band. Now I'm a member now as a candidate. So I believe in investing into the GSBA and being part of the organization. But working with Louise Chernin back in the day, we really want to focus on LGBTQ tourism. And I was an advocate and really was pushing to make sure that she got the funding and the organization got the funding, because to have the largest gay chamber in the country is an honor. And to be in the city with so many different good attractions, that we need to get as many people that are LGBTQ to come to Seattle to see what we have to offer. So my commitment is to launch a national marketing campaign to attract visitors to Seattle. And we're going to focus on African-American tourists, Asian tourists, and of course, LGBTQ tourism. I'm going to invest money within the back, and we stopped investing money into tourism, but I'm going to be reinvesting back into that. And a good portion of that will be focused on those three areas, because we want to bring people to our city from those segments of the population, because we want to have more inclusion. And the best way to have more inclusion and attract a diverse group of visitors is we have to make those strategic investments back into tourism. And that's what I'm going to do. Then, of course, we're going to work with the Sports Commission, as I was on the Sports Commission before, to bring more professional sports to Seattle. And of course, we have our hockey team. Next on deck is our basketball team that will be coming back. So I want to be part of that movement. And I'm already sort of working toward trying to position myself to help make that happen. And then, of course, we have to support all of our teams, the Storm, the Rain, the rugby teams. All of our teams need to be supported, and also our youth teams. So that's why we want to make some investments into Memorial Stadium for public schools and the private sector to be able to have more events. So by doing these things, we now reestablish ourselves as one of the leaders when it comes to sports and tourism, strategic investments. So my goal, and I'm the only candidate that said this, I'm going to reinvest back into tourism locally. It's too important to our city, and it brings in a lot of income from people around the world that want to come to our city. So that is what I'm going to do to reclaim our leadership position in sports and tourism and our position on the world stage.
Well, thank you so much, Lance. It's been a pleasure. Good luck on your campaign, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Matt. And hello to all the members of GSBA.